Welcome to today's edition of the Houston Roundball Review Takeover of the Lunch Break, powered by JM&E. This Throwback Thursday edition of the Takeover is shown on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel, as well as on Roku via the BS3 Network. And of course, if you have Roku and you don't have the BS3 Network, simply download BS3 TV app. Get the app. Please get the app. Get the app. Or you can watch the show at bs3network.com or bs3tvlive.com. But of course, since you have Roku, you are going to download the BS3 app where you can watch great shows like this, either live or on demand. Today's edition of Takeover, you will hear comments from Houston men's hoops head coach Kelvin Sampson from a recent Houston coaches caravan, as well as comments from Tommy Lloyd, Arizona men's basketball head coach, and also Brian Thornton, Big 12 vice president of men's basketball. Those two men, those comments are from the Big 12 spring meetings. And they're talking about, well, you have to hear it. I'm not thrilled about it, but I think it is inevitable. But first thing I'm going to discuss on today's edition of the Takeover is some big news at Houston Cougars baseball. Yes, baseball. I'm going to talk some baseball. I'm going to talk some football. Me, yes, Mr. Basketball is going to talk some baseball. Woo. But the baseball news is a big freaking deal. New head coach Will Davis was hired head coach of Houston Cougars men's baseball on Tuesday, so earlier this week. More details about the big news. Tuesday, University of Houston Athletics announced Will Davis, a 10-year coaching veteran and former national champion assistant coach, has been hired as Houston baseball's 9th head coach in program history. Davis led Lamar to the 2026 Southland Conference Tournament Championship crown in his 10th season at the helm. The title sent Lamar to an NCAA regional behind its 5th straight 30-win season. Davis has the Cardinals rolling, having won 6 in a row, entering the College Station Regional, where they will take on the Aggies from Texas A&M on Friday, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Quote from new head coach Davis: "I am thrilled and honored to be the head baseball coach at the University of Houston. I have spent my whole coaching career at both LSU and Lamar, competing against them, and have seen firsthand what a special place this is." He continues, "In my time in college baseball, they have come so close, so true, to making it to Omaha on several occasions, and I am excited to take on the challenge of getting the program over that hump," end quote. Next, comments from Mr. Eddie Nunez, Houston's VP of Intercollegiate Athletics. "We are incredibly excited to have Will and his family join Cougar Nation. With his background and proven track record, I am fully confident that Coach Davis will help us return Houston to the NCAAs, compete for Big 12 championships, and put together an exceptional group of young men. The team couldn't be in better hands, and we're eager to see what they're able to accomplish," end quote. The former College World Series winning assistant coach at LSU helped lead the Tigers to the 2009 title, 7 in SEC championships, and 4 trips to Omaha in his 7 seasons as an assistant in Baton Rouge. During his time at LSU, 48 Tigers were drafted in the MLB Major League Baseball draft, including 6 first-round selections, among them Alex Bregman and Aaron Nola, both MLB All-Stars. Davis, who played 4 seasons at LSU, held the Tigers to the 2004 College World Series as a freshman. Quote from Longhorns baseball head coach Jim Schlossnagle. Will Davis is an elite hire for the University of Houston. Coach Davis is an incredible program builder, energetic recruiter, and consistent developer of both talented players and winning teams. Cougar fans should be so very thankful that Will has chosen to lead UH at a championship level, end quote. A quote from someone Houston fans know quite well. From the moment in the recruiting process that I met Will, we hit it off instantly, as I thought we saw the game the same way. When I got to school, he became someone I could lean on, that was willing to work as hard as I did. He was willing to do anything to help me get better, and I am not surprised at all that he had that level of success at Lamar. This is a great hire by Houston, and I can't wait to see what he does at that program. Those comments are from Alex Bregman, MLB All-Star, World Series champion, former LSU baseball student asset. What do you think about that quote? Those words from Alex Bregman. Now shifting to football. Yes, some football. In coordination with the Big 12 Conference and network partners, the University of Houston football team announced its Week 1 and Week 2 kickoff times and network designations ahead of the 2026 season. Houston received one of the best TV networks and kickoff times possible in Week 1 with an 11 a.m. kickoff on ESPN against Oregon State on September 5th, following ESPN's pregame show College Game Day. The Coogs have not opened their season on ESPN since playing Texas Tech inside NRG Stadium in 2021. The last time Houston played at 11 a.m. on ESPN or ABC in Week 1, the Cougars beat number 3 Oklahoma on ABC in NRG Stadium in 2016, and I was there as a fan. Not a media person. I was there as a fan watching that victory. The Cougars will host Southern in Week 2 on ESPN Plus at 6 p.m. Central on September 12th. The game marks the third meeting between the two schools and the first since 2013. Announced earlier in May, Houston's first road trip and first Big 12 matchup will be on Friday, September 18th at Texas Tech on Fox, with kickoff slated for 7 p.m. Additional kick times and network designations will be released soon, with many released 6 to 12 days before kickoff. I'm still waiting / hoping, but also encouraging Houston to begin promoting the game against Southern. Get those frats and sororities, get them involved as well. Houston Southern, invite the Southern Jaguar alums, get them involved in promoting that game. Make it happen. Really, let's get to it. We're almost into June. Let's get this done. Let's have a sold-out stadium for the first 2 home games of the season. Hell, sold-out stadium for all the home games this season for the Houston Cougars football team. This could be a very, 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 very big year for Coach Fritz and the football team. Shifting gears now from baseball and football to Houston Cougars men's basketball. Going to play some comments from Kelvin Sampson from, I believe, last week's Coach's Caravan. Kudos and salute to Chris Baldwin from Paper City Magazine for recording these comments and making them available. Listen to what Coach Kelvin Sampson had to say. And if he's talking about you, I challenge you to do something about it. Here you go, head coach Kelvin Sampson.
So I've done some background research on why or why we don't raise money at the level that the other schools do. And I think basketball is a great example why. Our last really good year nationally in basketball was 1984. That was the last year we were on the national map. And so you think about the generation that went from 1984-85 to 2017-18. Think about all the graduates and all the classes we had during that time period. None of them had a habit of supporting our athletic department financially. So nobody did. So when we get here in 2013-14, we were an American Conference. But we were not an American Conference team. We were more Sun Belt. We were more Horizon League. We were more Texas. We were closer to Texas Southern than we were Texas. We had no money. We had no money. Yet everybody gets mad when things don't go well. My days are, I don't have a lot of years left, and that's fine. So I can say things like this. I'm saying it for Matt, I'm saying it for Willie, I'm saying it for our volleyball, our swimming and diving, I'm saying it for our new baseball coach. We've got to be supported at a higher level. You guys understand that? Yes. Now, you're here. You are not the problem. You're here. You're part. Everybody in this room is part of the solution. I can stand up here and blow smoke at you and say, we're going to win a national championship. I don't know if we got a good enough roster. We're going to be damn good now. But there's teams in the Big 12 whose rosters are significantly more expensive than ours. And that's the name of the game today. People say, I don't like that. You don't have to like it. They're not trying to please you. But if you want the University of Houston, if you want Coach Fritz to win at the level that LSU does, you know the difference financially in LSU and Houston? Is anybody in? It's not a bridge, it's the Grand Canyon. Yet, because of a guy like Coach Fritz, we're competitive. Our basketball program doesn't matter whether, at Duke was a pretty good win, right? Had 3 guys drafted in the top 10 in the NBA. But we took our guys over there and beat them. Tennessee, Purdue, Gonzaga. That's just that year. This year, A&M. You can go back every year. We're maxing out just about every year. But we've got to raise our level of giving. One of the human beings' greatest weakness and greatest fear is to ask for what they want. That's why some guys suck at fundraising, because they're scared to death to friggin' ask. I ain't afraid to ask. I know what Kansas has got. I know what it's like to walk into Fog Alley with 18,000, or go to Hilton Magic. Iowa State's great program with 16,000, 15,000, whatever it is. Go to Arizona. These are unbelievable programs, and we're competing with them. Don't be surprised. We're not here to compete with them. We're here to win. We've been in the Big 12 3 years. We've won the Big 12 twice and finished second once. And next year's team, be right back there again. Can we win the league? I have no idea. We got to play 18 games. But I know this, our roster has to continue to evolve up. And the only way we're going to do it is support. Kansas fans ain't going to give us money. You know who's got to give us money? You guys know? Who's got to support the University of Houston? You do. You do. I tell people all the time, don't bitch if you ain't giving.
Here. Don't bitch if you ain't giving. And real quick, Houston Roundball Review Media Group is a business. I'm not afraid to ask. I'm not afraid to ask for support. I'm not afraid to ask people to become members of the Houston Roundball Review YouTube Members Only section. where you get early access to new videos, early access to new content, written content, status updates. All league tier is not quite $3 per month. The all world tier is not quite $5 per month. Right now, through the end of May, you become an all world member. You do one more thing and you can receive a digital golden ticket from Star Pizza and receive and get your free large pizza. My way of saying thank you for supporting the Houston Roundball Review. Coogs helping Coogs. Star Pizza, Mike Pittman, his wife, are kind enough to support the Houston Roundball Review. Support Let's Rage Coogs. Coogs helping Coogs. All world tier. Become a member. Get those perks. You get an all league tier, but also members only YouTube shorts, members only videos, members only live streams. Coogs helping Coogs. Now, before I play this, I'm going to touch on a couple more things in addition to comments that you heard from Coach Sampson and comments you will hear from Coach Tommy Lloyd and Big 12 VP men's basketball Brian Thornton. Coach Sampson, one of the other things he said in there was about 18-game conference schedule. There are talks that might change back to 20 games conference schedule, but that's later on in the show. Gotta say this. Houston is a member of the Big 12. We all know this. We also know that there really is a power two among the power four, and that is the Big 10 and the SEC, because of how much money those conferences generate and how much their member schools receive via their media rights deals. The ACC has taken its lumps and bumps and bruises last year, 18 months, whatever. But in the recent tax filing, it became clearer that the ACC is generating more revenue than the Big 12. I'm not considering the Big 10 and the SEC. I'm talking about the ACC compared to the Big 12. The ACC is generating more revenue than the Big 12. One thing the ACC has in common with the Big 10 and the SEC, a linear network. The Big 12 does not have a linear network. Why doesn't the Big 12 have its own linear network? I'm going to discuss and present a few slides for you to give you a better idea and to kind of explain the rationale, logic, some might say illogic, but rationale of why the Big 12 does not have its own linear network. The Big 12 has not launched its own linear network because member schools and the conference chose a partner-driven rights model that gives wider immediate distribution, lower startup costs, lower startup risk, and bigger guaranteed revenue from ESPN and Fox, and sub-licenses rather than the high-cost, high-control route of a conference-owned channel. Let me pause right there and say this. All this info I'm about to read and say to you, mention to you, the Houston Roundball Review YouTube members already know, already received. Once again, the Houston Roundball Review YouTube members already know this info I shared with them days ago. Early access to content that I provide. Early access. That's what you get when you become a Houston Roundball Review YouTube member. The slide info I'm going to share with you today on the Takeover is an example of what I provide the YouTube members. It's a rare example of my members only content sharing it publicly. 95% of the time, my YouTube members get that info and I don't share it with the public. So keep that in mind. So don't get comfortable and say, I'm just going to wait for it to go public. No, I'm just sharing with you to give you an idea of what the Houston Roundball Review YouTube members receive, as well as giving you a chance to become a member so you can receive your own free large pizza from Star Pizza. Back to the info. Why the Big 12 chose partners instead of its own linear network. One reason: guaranteed money and lower risk. The Big 12's deals with ESPN and Fox provide predictable revenue streams and let the conference avoid the massive capital and distribution risk of launching a new linear channel. I want to read that again. Avoid the massive capital and distribution risk of launching a new linear channel. The member schools would have to help split that, share the cost of a new linear channel. Distribution, carriage fees, negotiations, all that would be part of it. Creating a standalone linear network requires paying cable providers to carry it. As viewership habits shift, distributors are highly reluctant to pay for niche sports networks, making the model financially risky. Next, existing school networks and fragmentation. Texas already had the Longhorn Network, which complicated a unified conference channel and helped push the league toward sub-licensing and partner deals rather than a single network. Third, sub-licensing strategy to gain linear exposure. The Big 12 has actively sub-licensed games to CBS, TNT/TBS, and Peacock to move content off streaming-only platforms and onto linear channels, achieving many of the exposure benefits without owning a network. Next, strategic flexibility for future rights cycles. Conference leadership has emphasized, quote-unquote, optionality heading into the 2030 rights marketplace, partnering now and building relationships with multiple broadcasters can improve leverage later. The Big 12's media strategy. Instead of a single network, the Big 12 relies on a multi-partner media rights deal, which includes linear TV. The conference broadcasts its marquee football and basketball games, more than usual, men's basketball games, across major national television networks, including ABC, ESPN, Fox, CBS, and TNT. Streaming. Hundreds of additional conference sports events are exclusively broadcast on the ESPN Plus platform. Exposure. This omni-channel approach allows the Big 12 to distribute its games to broader, established audiences rather than trying to force fans to subscribe to an entirely new standalone cable channel. Risks and trade-offs to note. First, loss of long-term upside. A conference network can generate larger long-term profits if carriage and subscriber fees succeed. But that requires heavy upfront investment and time. Brand dilution versus reach. Partnering spreads Big 12 games across multiple networks, good for reach, but reduces a single unified conference brand presence. Recommendation. If the Big 12 wants immediate national reach and stable revenue, the partner lease/sublicense model is sensible. If members prioritize and negotiate carriage, a politically and financially difficult path given existing school networks and contracts, now in table form, everything I just said to you. 5 attributes: revenue control, upfront cost, distribution reach, brand control, and risk. Revenue control. Conference-owned network, high potential, depends on the carriage deals. Revenue control under the partnered rights model. Guaranteed payouts from ESPN and Fox. Sublicensing adds revenue. Upfront cost. Very high under the conference-owned network, including the launch and operating costs. Low upfront costs for the conference with the partnered rights model because the networks bear the costs. Distribution reach. Limited at start under the conference-owned network. Needs carriage deals. Negotiating. Got to pay for this stuff, and you got to pay the cable companies to carry your network. The partnered rights model, the reach, immediate broad reach via ESPN and Fox, and the sub-licenses. Brand control. Has full editorial and scheduling control under the conference-owned network theme. However, in contrast, limited brand control under the partnered rights model because the networks decide many of the broadcast windows. Lastly, the risk. High financial and carriage risk with the conference-owned network. Lower financial risk and less upside but stable with the partnered rights model. What do you think? What do you think the Big 12, should the Big 12, and I think the ship has sailed with it. I don't think there's any high likelihood of a Big 12 linear network. I think the Big 12 is placing eggs in its basket regarding looking in the future and partnering with TNT, Turner Sports, Paramount, getting more Big 12 games and content under broadcast on those platforms rather than spending money to create its own linear network, negotiating carriage deals, etc., all those things. But what do you think? Do you have a problem with having Big 12 men's basketball games on ESPN, Fox, NBC, Peacock, TNT, TBS, Fox, FS1? Do you want it all in one spot? Money won't be the same. ACC network started slowly, had to negotiate the carriage rights deals and distribution, and is finally beginning to pay off and has helped explain why the ACC revenue gap between the ACC and the Big 12 has increased. And the ACC is paying its member schools more per school than the Big 12 is paying its member schools. Keep all those things in mind. Next, bottom of the hour is here on today's edition of the Houston Roundball Review Takeover of the Lunch Break. Throwback Thursday style. Takeover is of course, powered by JM&E. You're watching either on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel, or you're watching it on the Houston Roundball Review on Facebook, or you might even be those growing numbers of people watching the Houston Roundball Review on Roku, courtesy of the BS3 Network. For the next 90 seconds, you are going to learn a little bit more about what BS3 TV is all about. And when I come back, you'll hear from head coach Tommy Lloyd, Vice President of Men's Basketball Brian Thornton, as well as some more Big 12 football kickoff times announced by the conference. You're watching the Houston Roundball Review Takeover of the Lunch Break, powered by JM&E. Takeover is today's edition is on Throwback Thursday. I'll be back in 90 seconds. BS3 Network.
BS3 Network. Changing the way you watch TV.
Welcome back to today's edition of the Houston Roundball Review. Takeover of the lunch break, Throwback Thursday. Takeover powered by JM&E. I am, of course, KG Kris Gardner, owner of the Houston Roundball Review. Before I discuss some of the kickoff times for Big 12 football for the first 3 weeks of the season, I'm going to finally play comments from Arizona men's basketball head coach Tommy Lloyd and Brian Thornton, the Big 12 Vice President of men's basketball, talking about the possibility that the Big 12 conference on the men's side will return to 20 conference games. It used to be 20. This past season, it was 18. Now there's talk about it going back to 20 as early as the 2027-28 season. First up, Arizona men's basketball head coach Tommy Lloyd.
I think, us coaches, I think there's kind of a general consensus. We're really happy with 18. We think that gives us the best flexibility for us to schedule accordingly with our non-conference schedules, based on the needs of our program. And obviously I think there's going to be a push from the conference level, to get 20 games because, and they want more content. So when we do become, media free agents in 2030, obviously they think more content equals more value. So I think it's just trying to figure out, where we can meet on that issue. I know for me, having the extra flexibility to schedule, now you get an additional game. So it's really kind of scheduling you have 3 more out of conference opportunities. And I know for us, we like taking big swings, and I think that has really helped the profile of our program. And I think it really helps college basketball in the November and December months, when we're still, battling with football, NFL and college football. I think the quality of those games they really, really matter. So for me, I'm a strong proponent for the 18 game schedule, but unfortunately, I don't know if I get a vote on the issue.
Some candid comments from Tommy Lloyd, Arizona men's basketball head coach, regarding the early talk of resuming or returning to 20 Big 12 men's basketball conference games. Kelvin Sampson led the charge for the return to 18 conference games. 2 years ago, when there was a 20-game conference schedule, Coach Sampson really early on made a point to voice his displeasure of the 20-game conference schedule because of only one bye week, the grind of going through the gauntlet of Big 12 men's basketball, no time to rest and recover for the players. 18-game conference schedule this past season, 2025-26 season. Now there's talk about going back to a 20-game conference schedule. I'm very confident the talk has begun because the media partners started it. this is not from the coach's side, media partners and the higher-ups in the Big 12 conference office have discussed this or are discussing this. And speaking of one of the Big 12 higher-ups, now let's hear from Brian Thornton, the Big 12 Conference's Vice President of men's basketball.
Yeah, I think it's on the table. No decisions have been made. Obviously, this week was the first time we've really dove into that conversation. We understand that people have to plan accordingly. And if we decide to move in that direction, it needs to happen fairly judiciously and quickly. I think the conversations around why we're even talking about it are around the fact that, one, we have media free agency coming up in 2030, and the more quality games, the better. It's been proven based on, the ratings and whatnot that our conference games have a significant rating, whether they're on any of our media partners. We certainly understand the flexibility that takes place with our coaches' desire to build out their schedules. Also understanding that the world is changing around us and that there is a more desire of our institutions to play more neutral site games where they have the opportunity to capitalize on their brands and make money from that standpoint. And then how do you balance the more neutral site games with still maintaining a critical mass of quality conference controlled games that you need from a media rights standpoint. So we're trying to thread that needle. Again, this week was the first time that we've really broached it, and this is comes from understanding our ratings and how we capitalize, and we can do both.
That was Brian Thornton, the Vice President, Big 12 Vice President of men's basketball, saying this week was the first time they broached it. I think it was broached by the Big 12's media partners, ESPN, Fox representatives from ESPN, Fox, NBC, Peacock, TNT, Turner Sports, etc. A 20-game men's conference basketball schedule is more content for those media partners. I think a couple of things: show me the money, but also add in an additional bye week for the teams and the players. Allow them to rest and recover, because Big 12 men's basketball is a grind. It's a grind for the media to cover the game. So it's got to be a grind for the players and the coaches and the travel and all those things. I do believe it's inevitable that a return to a 20-game conference schedule will happen. And if it does happen, it could happen as soon, or would happen as soon as the 2027-28 season. Money's involved. Big 12 needs to increase its revenue streams, add different revenue streams, increase the revenue stream that it does have. A 20-game conference schedule. If the media partners say we will pay you more money, let's talk. Let's make this work. Let's figure it out. So I do believe it's going to happen. But you also heard Brian Thornton say, and you heard Coach Lloyd say or reference media free agency in 2030. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark will speak with the media on Friday at the conclusion of the Big 12 spring meetings. And I'm pretty sure he's going to say something similar and refer to media free agency, 2030, media partners, optionality. Next, some Big 12 football. Alongside its television partners, ESPN, Fox, and TNT Sports, the Big 12 Conference has announced its football selections and designations for the first 3 weeks of the season, and additional later games across linear and streaming platforms. In addition to the Big 12's previously announced television selections, the conference will have 22 games on a linear distribution through the first 3 weeks of the season, which includes 10 games versus Power 4 opponents. The season begins with the Big 12's lone Week 0 game, with TCU facing North Carolina in the 2026 Aer Lingus College Football Classic in Dublin, Ireland on Saturday, August 29th, airing at 11 a.m. Central on ESPN. Conference matchups in the early selections include the Union Jack Classic between Arizona State and Kansas on Saturday, September 19th, slated for an 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff on FS1, kicking off from Wembley Stadium in London. Arizona and BYU will meet in Provo, Utah on Saturday, September 12th at 2:30 p.m. Central on Fox, joining the previously announced Houston, Texas Tech game on Fox, 7 p.m. Central in Week 3. Bookending the regular season will be the 2026 Big 12 Football Championship at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas on Friday, December 4th, which is slated for a 7 p.m. Central Time kickoff on ABC. The remainder of the season's television selections will be announced on a 12-day or 6-day notice via Big12Sports.com and the conference's official digital platforms. And here are some of the games for the first 3 weeks of the 2026 Big 12 football season to be televised. Thursday, September 3rd, Bethune-Cookman at UCF at 6 p.m. on ESPN+. Idaho at Utah at 8 p.m. on ESPNU. Friday, September 4th, LIU at KU, Kansas at 7 p.m. on ESPNU. Saturday, September 5th, Oregon State at Houston at 11 a.m. on ESPN. Make it a sellout, fans. Make it a sellout. Next, Coastal Carolina at West Virginia at 11 a.m. on TNT and HBO Max. Southeast Missouri at Iowa State at high noon on ESPN+. Followed by Boston College at Cincinnati at 2:30 p.m. on Fox. We continue. September 5th, Nichols at K-State at 6 p.m. on ESPN+. Abilene Christian at Texas Tech, also at 6 p.m. on FS1. Utah Tech at BYU at 7 p.m. on ESPN+. Northern Arizona at 8:30 p.m. on ESPN+. And wrapping up the September 5th schedule, Big 12 schedule, Morgan State at Arizona State at 9 p.m. on ESPN+. Saturday, September 12th, kicking it off with Washington State at K-State at 11 a.m. on TNT and HBO Max. Oregon at Oklahoma State, also at 11 a.m. This one's going on ESPN. UT Martin at West Virginia, high noon on ESPN+. Arizona at BYU at 2:30 p.m. on Fox. Next on the 12th, Weber State at Colorado, 2:30 p.m. on ESPN+. Western Carolina at Cincinnati at 6 p.m. ESPN+. As I mentioned earlier, Southern at Houston at 6 p.m. on ESPN+. Prairie View at Baylor, Prairie View A&M at Baylor, 7 p.m. ESPN+. Grambling State at TCU, 7 p.m. on ESPN+. And then closing out the Big 12 slate on the 12th of September, Arkansas at Utah at 9:15 on ESPN. Saturday, September 19th, Arizona State versus Kansas in the Union Jack Classic in London, Wembley Stadium, 11 a.m. on FS1. Bowling Green at Iowa State, 11 a.m. ESPNU. Tulane at K-State, also at 11 a.m. on ESPN2. And then looks like a full slate of games on September 19th. Continues with Miami of Ohio at Cincinnati, kicking off at 2:30 p.m. ESPN+. Utah State at Utah, 2:30 on Fox. Wow, okay. Utah State at Utah on Fox. All right. Louisiana Tech at Baylor at 3 p.m. on ESPNU. Georgia State at UCF at 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Murray State at Oklahoma State at 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Arkansas State at TCU at 7 p.m. on ESPNU. And then closing it out on the 19th, Northern Illinois at Arizona at 9:30 p.m. on TNT and HBO Max. So those are the Big 12 games for the opening 3 weeks of the season. Now, games that were previously announced by the conference, including Week 0, Saturday, August 29th, North Carolina versus TCU, 11 a.m. Central on ESPN. September 3rd, Colorado at Georgia Tech at 7 p.m. Central on ESPN. September 5th, Baylor versus Auburn in Atlanta at 2:30 p.m. Central on ABC. Friday, September 11th, rivalry, Missouri at Kansas at 7 p.m. Central on Fox. September 18th, should be a big one, should be a good one. The Coogs in Lubbock at Texas Tech, 7 p.m. on Fox. Friday, noticing a theme here with Big 12 games on Fridays. October 9th, Iowa State at BYU, 9:15 on ESPN. Friday, October 30th, Baylor at UCF, 6:30 p.m. on ESPN. Friday, TCU at Arizona, 9:15, ESPN. Friday, November 13th, Houston at Colorado, 9:15, ESPN. Friday, November 20th, Iowa State at UCF, 5 p.m. on FS1. Thursday, Thursday, November 26th, TCU at Texas Tech, 7 p.m. on ESPN. Lastly, Friday, November 27th, West Virginia at Utah, 8 p.m. on Fox. So that is the some first 3 weeks kickoff times announced for the Big 12 games through week 3, week 0 through week 3, as well as the previously announced TV selections for the Big 12 football 2026 football season. Should be a good one for the Coogs, Coach Fritz. All of those football games, the Coogs football games, join us here on the Houston Roundball Review on YouTube for the Let's Rage Coogs post-game shows as we recap a whole lot of Houston Cougar football wins this season. And then stick with us throughout the men's basketball season for more Let's Rage Coogs post-game shows as we recap more wins after the Houston Cougars men's basketball season. And if you are willing, interested, and able to become a sponsor of the Takeover shows or the Let's Rage Coogs post-game shows and help me and Andy and Dan and Fluff as well, get all 4 of us in Kansas City for the Big 12 men's basketball championship tournament, by all means, advertise. Reach out to me, reach out to Andy, and advertise, become part of the Let's Rage Coogs shows. Now, I'm going to continue my business hat and ask you, again, I'm not afraid to ask, order your Houston Roundball Review merch. You got a lot of options, a lot of different ways, a lot of different items for you to support the Houston Roundball Review with some merch. Scan that QR code, see that the mug there in the middle? You get the OG mug right here. This is for me, the original logo. New logo, new mug, new design is for you. But in addition to the mug, Houston Roundball Review tumblers, Houston Roundball Review water bottles, plus short sleeve shirts, the Once a Coug, Always a Coug short sleeve shirts, and other items for the Once a Coug product line, including long sleeve, jogging pants, hoodies, etc. Got sweatshirts, more short sleeve shirts with the second Roundball Review logo, plus tank tops, different colors. A lot of different ways for you to add to your wardrobe as well as support the Houston Roundball Review. Next way to support the Houston Roundball Review. Join these great companies in the Houston Roundball Review's online business directory. Email advertise at thehrr.com and you can join the African Center of Wellbeing, Be Elite Basketball, Byron Riley CPA, the Pinto Leon Law Firm, Star Pizza, United Sports and Entertainment, VIP Realty, and the Saxenian family. Reach out. Advertise at thehrr.com. Advertise at thehrr.com. Advertise at thehrr.com. One more time. Advertise at thehrr.com. You get a listing, you purchase a listing in the online business directory. You are included in the directory. You also get to be a sponsor of one of the live stream shows on the Takeover, which means, of course, reminder, your logo, your company will be mentioned, plugged on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel, the Houston Roundball Review Facebook page, and on Roku via the BS3 Network. Plus, when I refurbish or put together some clips, as well as on Instagram at the Houston Roundball Review IG account and TikTok too on the Houston Roundball Review TikTok page. All those different platforms simply by purchasing a listing in the Houston Roundball Review online directory for less than $1 a week, 12 months for less than $1 a week. Hope you enjoyed today's edition of the Houston Roundball Review Takeover. You saw comments from head coach Kelvin Sampson. You heard comments from Arizona's Tommy Lloyd and the Big 12's VP of men's basketball, Brian Thornton. Hopefully you learned about why the Big 12 does not have a linear network. Salute to new Houston Cougars baseball head coach, Will Davis. All of that content and more on future editions of the Houston Roundball Review Takeover of the Lunch Break, powered by JM&E, streaming on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel, Houston Roundball Review Facebook page, and of course on Roku via the BS3 Network. That will do it. Please spread the word about the Houston Roundball Review. Spread the word about the Houston Roundball Review Takeover. Spread the word about the BS3 Network. Spread the word about KG Kris Gardner. Been doing this a long time. Still pressing forward. Still hitting that rock. Still pounding that rock. How long been doing this? As I wrap up today's show, since 1994, the Houston Roundball Review. Local name, global perspective. Everyone, take care. Peace.